Number 10. Slapping passengers. A former Playboy model was arrested after a bizarre outburst on a Delta flight. The ex-model went on an insane tirade and slapped a bunch of passengers across the face. Her name is Patricia Cornwall. Besides being a model for Playboy, she was also an actress in the show Baywatch. It was the FBI who made the arrest after she disrupted her flight from Tampa to Atlanta. According to fellow passengers and employees with their airline, she caused a mid-air disturbance, and luckily for all of us, the disturbance was caught on video and spread around the internet. But here's when things got controversial. We've all seen the videos of anti-maskers freaking out in department stores and making a scene. But this was the opposite. Patricia got angry because a man sitting near her wasn't wearing a mask, and yet she wasn't wearing a mask either. She had it tucked under her chin. Patricia screamed at him to put his mask on. He called her a Karen and told her to sit down. Then she slapped him across the face and shrieked, "You're going to jail." We don't know what got into Patricia to make her have such a crazy outburst in the middle of a flight, but she ended up being dragged away by crew members. They took her down the aisle where she flailed and screamed and cursed. If she had really been so worried about his mask, she probably shouldn't have also spat on him. When the flight finally landed at the Atlanta International Airport, the model was the one who got arrested. Number 9. Accidental stabbing. Jeannie Exum, a model on Instagram and OnlyFans, was arrested for stabbing her boyfriend. The police received a call on a Monday evening just before 7 o'clock. A man had been assaulted inside of an apartment in Manhattan on 10th Avenue. The NYPD said in a statement that when they arrived, the man told them he'd gotten in an argument with his girlfriend. His girlfriend, the model, lashed out and stabbed him in the arm with a kitchen knife. Then she plunged it into his back. She stabbed him in the back in the most literal sense of the phrase. The boyfriend was transported to the hospital in stable condition, and Jeannie Exum was arrested. The boyfriend, identified as Francis Amore, is also an internet personality. The judge put a no-contact order against Jeannie, barring her from being close to or even speaking with Francis. Jeannie is also facing a felony assault charge. The wounds may have only been superficial, with her boyfriend getting a few stitches and being released from the hospital. But she still stabbed somebody. The only thing is that the boyfriend doesn't want the case to go forward, so she'll probably get away clean. It's not even the first time she's gotten in trouble with the law. Just a little while ago, the Instagram model got in some hot water for flashing the cops and posting a picture of it on Instagram. Number 8. 14 wounds. Melanie was discovered dead in her guest house with 14 stab wounds. It happened in Rosario, Argentina. Melanie's friend became concerned after no one had heard from her for a while. She wasn't answering her phone calls, but the most telling sign was that she hadn't been active on social media for over 48 hours. This was very unusual for her, and it prompted friends and family to call the police. The cops then got a hold of her sister, who happened to have a spare key to the guest house where she was staying. When the cops entered the guest house, they found Melanie's lifeless corpse. Melanie was a model on OnlyFans. Her body was on the floor of the guest house, her head resting on the side of the mattress, and stab wounds all across her body. It looked like somebody went berserk on her with no rhyme or reason. The front door hadn't been burst open, the window wasn't forced, and the lights were off. But the TV was turned on and cranked to full volume. The only item missing from the guest house was her cell phone. Clearly, somebody wanted to cover their tracks. It was quite a mystery for the police, who haven't actually solved it yet. Eyewitnesses say they saw one male person entering the lodgings and then leaving early in the morning. He'd been several times going in and out. It must have been somebody the model knew, but nobody has been able to identify the mysterious guy yet. The most popular theory right now is that she has been having an affair with somebody. She kept it a secret from her friends, and that secret lover ended up being a psychotic murderer. Number 7. The cat model. A model was arrested in the Brazilian coastal town of Matinho back in November. She was arrested for the part she played in the assassination of her husband, which took place during their son's birthday party. Her name is Camila Marodin, an online model and fashion influencer. Her husband, Ricardo Marodin, was believed by local police to be the leader of a drug cartel, but after his death, that proved not to be the case. They now believe it was actually his model wife who was in charge of the entire cartel. They're now trying to bring her up on 3 murder charges, 1 for her husband and 2 for a pair of cops who were assassinated. Camila's capture was part of a military police operation in which they arrested 14 other members of the cartel. They went to her house and carried out the arrest warrant, only to discover she already fled. But she wasn't that hard to track down, and police managed to snag her as she tried to run away to her mother's house. As for why she shot down her husband, it wasn't Camila herself who pulled the trigger. It was members of the criminal gang she was in charge of. 4 armed suspects showed up to her son's 4th birthday party and executed her husband. They used the same vehicle that was involved in the assassination of 2 cops just days before. But why she orchestrated such a brutal killing is still under investigation. Why do you think she wanted her husband dead? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 6. Run down by a train. In Texas, a 19-year-old model was run over by a train in a horrible photo shoot gone wrong. A local official says that the exact reason why people aren't supposed to play on railroad tracks. The Texas teen, identified as Fredzania Thompson, was new to the world of modeling and needed some good photos. She and her photographer went to Navasota, about 60 miles from Houston. It was the middle of the afternoon, and the photographer had Fredzania stand between 2 sets of tracks. Lo and behold, 2 trains began to approach from opposite directions. The problem really was that there were 2 trains. They were both blowing their horns, but the model only thought there was one coming at her. She moved out of the path of the train she saw in front of her, unwittingly walking directly into the path of a different train. She never even saw it coming. She stepped out of the way of imminent death and fell directly into her grave. Number 5. A bad influence. A man killed his family in a bizarre incident involving a webcam girl. His name is Grant Amato, a Florida native who had no job and no prospects in life. He was completely obsessed with an online model who performed adult shows on her webcam. The webcam model, a random woman from Bulgaria, had no idea that she was inspiring a psychopath to take out his whole family. According to prosecutors in the case, Grant only murdered his family after they gave him an ultimatum. They said he needed to stop his unhealthy relationship with the Bulgarian model and get off the adult website, or they would cut him off completely. The reason his parents were so upset was that he had already stolen over $200,000 from family members to continue tipping the model online. This was the only way he could sustain his relationship with her. When his parents cut him off, he was so angry that he killed his mother and left her face down on the computer desk. He then waited for his father to get home from work before killing him too. When his brother arrived home later, he shot him in the head and then set it up to make it look as though his brother had done a murder-suicide. But of course, the cops were able to look at the clues and figure out what really happened. Grant has since been given life in prison, narrowly escaping the death penalty. Number 4. The OnlyFans pimp. A Florida woman named LaShawna Williams has been arrested and charged with second-degree murder. According to the police, she allegedly killed her boyfriend by zipping him up in a suitcase and leaving him to suffocate. But that's only one piece of the bizarre story. Detectives say that LaShawna was a model on OnlyFans who had solo photographs as well as videos of herself and her boyfriend. It started out small, but she actually started to make some money. When her boyfriend realized how much money she was bringing in through her activities on OnlyFans, he told her that he wanted a cut of the action. In other words, he tried to become her OnlyFans pimp. Sadly for him, he didn't turn out to be a very tough pimp. LaShawna managed to manhandle her boyfriend into a suitcase and zip it closed. But she had been drinking at the time and passed out afterwards. She didn't wake up until 11 o'clock the next morning. By then, her boyfriend had been in the bag for hours. He ran out of air and suffocated, slowly dying as he tried desperately to free himself from a measly suitcase. Number 3. Jasmine FIORE. Jasmine FIORE was a California model whose body was discovered in August of 2009, stuffed into a suitcase. Her remains had been so badly mutilated that nobody could identify her. Police investigators only figured out who she was when they looked at the serial numbers of her breast implants. At the time of her death, she was just 28 years old. The police had one suspect and one suspect only, former reality TV contestant Ryan Jenkins. He was Jasmine's husband at the time of the death. Just 1 week after his wife was found in the suitcase, he too was discovered dead in a hotel room in the small Canadian town of Hope. The last time Jasmine was seen alive, she and Ryan were leaving a nightclub in downtown San Diego at about 4:30 in the morning. Ryan returned to their hotel by himself, and Jasmine vanished. This was on October 13th. Ryan reported her missing 2 days later. The same day, her corpse was found. Ryan then went on the run, Police found his SUV in an empty boat trailer at a marina in Washington. When they found it, the engine was still warm. Ryan took his boat and crossed the border into Canada, evading Canadian authorities. He was found several days later hanging from a clothes rack by his neck. No note was found, and so police have never truly been able to find out what happened. Nobody knows what motive Ryan could have had for killing the model, nor why he traveled all the way to Canada just to end it himself. There may have been a third party involved, but we just have no idea. Number 2. Husband killer. When a man taunted his model wife, she killed him. Lilia Sudakova, 27 years old, is looking at a sentence of 15 years in prison for the death of Sergei Popov. She claims she was acting in self-defense and was a victim of domestic abuse. She says he was dead drunk at the time of the killing. He arrived home with some random girl to make Lilia jealous. But it was actually the night before when trouble started. He wanted to get busy, but Lilia wasn't in the mood. The whole act of bringing a random girl home the next night was supposed to be to show the model that he could have any other woman at any other time. It was a taunt, and one that landed him dead. Nobody really knows what happened that night. Lilia says he became aggressive and attacked her as she was cooking. She was cutting a tomato with a kitchen knife when Sergei grabbed her. When she tried to push him away, she accidentally stabbed him in the chest. But according to the prosecution, that's not what happened at all. Lilia stabbed her husband intentionally to get rid of him. The trial is still ongoing, and we don't know how it all ended for the young model. She has appeared in magazines in Italy, Japan, and China, and was even the face of a clothing brand in Moscow. But now, she might just spend the rest of her youth behind bars. And number 1, Olympic murder. Olympic runner Oscar Pistorius competed at the 2012 Olympics. It was arguably the best year of his life. He shot to fame as a double amputee athlete. He even managed to hook himself a model, Riva Steenkamp. But on Valentine's Day of 2013, he threw all of the fame and success in the garbage by shooting Riva several times through a closed bathroom door at his house. In 2015, Pistorius was convicted of murder and given 13 years and 5 months. In 2021, after serving half his sentence, he went up for parole. But we don't know if he's going to get out of prison yet, because he first needs to meet the parents of the model he murdered. It's part of an initiative to give closure to the family of the deceased. But because of COVID, things have been a little tricky, and the Olympic runner is still waiting. It's hard to say exactly what will happen. The runner defended himself in court, saying that it was a tragic accident, and he claimed to have mistaken the model for a dangerous intruder on the night of the killing. Because he stuck to that story this whole time, we don't actually know what kind of motive he might have had for murdering the young girl in cold blood. Does the life of a model really seem so glorious after hearing these tales of horror? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, remember to hit subscribe and come back again for more wild videos. See you next time.